Welcome, welcome. I'm Dee, and this is Single Mom and Got a Life, where I try to navigate through finances, motherhood, being single, and everything in between. And I bring you guys along for the journey to hold me accountable. This is my January budget closeout. So I am going to be taking my time while I'm doing this because I want to make sure that I am providing you a detailed breakdown of what I do to close out each month. So first and foremost is I have incorporated Tasha from TashaLovesLife.com or Mind Your Money here on YouTube's monthly budget master plan reflection. So at the end of our budget, we're going to grade ourselves. We're going to figure out what we could have done better, and we're going to speak money affirmations into our budget. So let's go ahead and put this to the side. The first thing that I actually do is I look at my January monthly budget overview. This tells me what I was expected to bring in, what bills I had to pay out, and my variable expenses, as well as my goals. So one, I wanted to put $500 towards my debt. I wanted to put $500 plus towards my emergency fund. And I wanted to bring at least $1,000 plus in for my side income. Initially, I wanted to bring this in after taxes, but we'll see, where that fell in place with everything. I am warming up me some water for my tea, so let me just go ahead and pour that over so it can start. All right, so I got my tea on the side here. So let's get back to this. So I also want to make sure that I verify that all of these bills have cleared my account, and they have. I have placed asterisks on ones that I know that there will be some changes with the amounts due to either me changing amount or the bill being more or less than what I expected. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually slide this up here. Now I look and see exactly what I brought in. So this is my first income breakdown, number one. For this income breakdown, I had to allocate $3,770.93 to my expenses. This is how I actually broke this down. And again, there was something up with the water bill. So this reminds me that when it's time to do the review, that I need to look up and see what I actually paid for that. These what I sent to the envelope system in the seeking funds. The next thing I check is the second income breakdown. And this was on January 15th. And $3,786.92 was what I had to allocate. This is how I allocated that money thus far. All right, so now let's get into the grind of everything. This is our envelope system spending record. We actually closed this out on 1/28. And so this tells me exactly what I spent from my envelope system. And then I have one sinking fund listed here. And the sinking fund that's listed here is because it covers this envelope system. So I like to see what I have here in order to allocate here if necessary. So as you can see, I did some spending, of course. And additionally, you should see that I closed out my envelope system because I do the zero out challenge. And because I do the zero out challenge, nothing carries over bi-weekly out of the envelope system. I'm not sure why somebody's calling, but let's see what's going on. We back. I'm not sure how that person got through, but they did. So what I was saying is that I do the zero out challenge, so nothing carries over bi-weekly. So this is what I spent from December 31st through January 28th. Okay, so I don't think it's really anything other than I did have to pull from my miscellaneous for gas. I had to pull from miscellaneous for groceries, and then I had to do it again for gas. So that tells me that I am under budgeting gas and I'm under budgeting groceries. Or for me, I don't think I'm under budgeting groceries. I think I'm just not I had not been planning well. And you should have seen in my meal plan and grocery haul what I'm deciding to do to actually combat this issue of overspending in groceries. All right, so I take this here, put it to the side, and then we can kind of talk about our weekly check-in. I do this mostly off camera. You see the mid-month check-in, so you usually see what I spent this week and what I'll be sending over the next week and so on and so forth. But you never see me close this out. So this is where I close it out, and I really make sure that, one, all my remaining at the end of the month is 0. So for fun money, I did not spend fun money. It actually was allocated to the 0 out challenge because it was left. I didn't spend it. Gas, I spent $23.26, so that was already 0. Groceries, I had already spent all of the grocery money, so there was nothing to allocate nor spend. For the household, the $5.14 went to the 0 out challenge. Personal, the $2.67 went out to the 0 challenge. And then for restaurants, I did spend a total of $15.52. Of that, $3.49 actually went to the 0 out challenge and not the whole $15.52. So I did go to Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts that made up the difference between that, but it still ended out to be 0. So this is how I close out my envelope system. As you know, I was doing the highlighting method. I was using this key to tell me which highlighter I need to highlight to determine what my spending habits was throughout the week, throughout the month, excuse me. So let's go ahead and move this to the side, and let's talk about the sinking funds. So again, I closed this out on the 28th as well. These are my current sinking funds. And of course, we do have our miscellaneous, so it's there. These are the ones I track in multiple savings accounts that earn interest. Some of them are high interest, some are low interest. But in the end, I'm earning something on this money. So for me, I didn't really have to spend out of my sinking funds other than like gifts, health. I did spend a little out of Papa. I did have to pay my property taxes, my winter property taxes. Nothing has been spent out of taxes. At this point, nothing has been spent out of travel. And I was able to put more to the bill carryover than I expected. Additionally, I was like the account that I hold most of these sinking funds in earn interest and has like different challenges, and I have what's called the roundup challenge. So with my purchases, when they rounded up, it was 78 cents. They matched that, so they sent me 78 cents. So that's what made the difference. Additionally, anytime I make a purchase, I have it send the difference to this account too. So that's what helps to build up this bill carryover. And it's very important that I build this up because we have bills that fluctuate. So one bill that fluctuates is my water bill. So I'm happy that I am being consistent and having a plan to ensure that this is funded, not only funded out of my budget, but other avenues of passive income that comes into this particular account. So we're going to move that to the side. And what we're going to actually do is we're going to calculate what we have in each total to make sure it matches what we have ending in our spending record. Now for car maintenance, we started off with $50 because we depleted most of the sinking fund account in December when I purchased those tires. So I did earn 8 cents of interest. And then I made a deposit of $100. And I did have to send $3.81 to my credit card. So all in all, the first week, I added $96.27. And then the third week, I added $100. So they gave me $246.27 remaining in that account. And as you can see, that's been verified. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just going through each of the sinking fund categories, and I am calculating each week's total. So this layout is different than I have done in the past. Usually on this weekly check-in, you can see when I'm adding to the account and when I'm taking away from this particular account. Now what I'm doing is combining the transactions in one. So regardless if I'm adding or taking away, in week one, it's going to show the total. So that's how I'm doing that going forward, because it's just a lot easier. And then additionally, what I'm doing after I calculate each category is I'm looking at the spending record and making sure that the amount that's listed there is the same as the ending balance. And that's verified. So like I said, before what I was doing, I was putting what I was adding and subtracting. And so that's why I decided to do the spending record, because that helps me. This just tells me the activity that's going on within the week, if I'm adding or subtracting from this fund during that week. All right. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and move to the infamous unbudgeted spending tracker. So the spending tracker started out at $715 for the month of January. I did have to transfer to my gas envelope system early on. So that brought the balance down to $695.28. Additionally, I subtracted the water bill fee out of this account. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But if you follow me, you know what exactly happened. And so that brought that down to $692.33. $11.63. I just could not figure out where that money was at, y'all. And I still can't figure it out. So that brought it down to $687. So what I'm doing now is looking at all of the transactions for the mid-month check-in. And all of these transactions come from purchases we made when we're out of town. What I decided to do was to use this account for any transactions that I had to make when we were away versus in trying to figure out where I can pull from our sinking funds, how much I had in my envelope system. It was just much easier to have one central account that I can throw all of the transactions in and reconcile them in the end. Okay. So $4,739 is what we had going into our February budget. And you should have seen that when we set up our February budget. And that's how I knew exactly what I had left because of this. All right. So now we are to the meat and potatoes. This is my monthly review sheet. This is a sheet that I created for myself. I have made some adjustments thus far in order to ensure that I will understand what I'm looking at, and that it gives an accurate record of what's going on during my month. So first, let's talk about the monthly take-home pay. So the income source number one is usually what I am expecting from my normal paychecks and stipend. So I estimated $3,342.29. I actually brought in $3,552.28. So I did bring up a little bit more. And the reason why I brought in a little bit more was because the first paycheck was more because it was actually the third paycheck of December, and there was not any insurances that was coming out of that particular check, that particular paycheck. Okay. Income source number two is usually any thing that I'm pulling from my savings account and rollover. Okay. So the income source was for this was $1,153.30. I actually brought in $1,181.99. Okay. So I did bring in a little bit more of that income source number two. And that just came from different avenues. Bonus income is any income that I was not expected that showed up in any side income that I actually put into my budget. So I did bring over $660.96 is what I estimated, but I actually brought in $1,000 $898.91. Okay, so let's add that all up. And the reason why I brought in more of the bonus income is because of the stimulus. So I do account for that in my budget, in my monthly review. So $6,633.18 is what I actually brought in. All right. So now let's talk about the fixed expenses. So there was a few of the fixed expenses that I did not know when and what the amount was going to be until it actually hit my, I got notification for it. So for rent, it was actually $715, so there was no change. For the payers plan was actually $100.99, so there was no change. For the internet, it was actually $64.99, so there was no change there. For streaming, it was $14.93, no change there. Life insurance, it was $38.54, no change. Electric, no change. Storage was $746. OnStar was actually $24.99. The insurance was $134, so there was no change there. The car note was $280.14, no change there. Now giving was actually $334.41. And how I verify that is I always look at my income breakdown. So the first one, it was $174.41, and then the second one was $160. So that's $334.41. Okay, so let's move that back out the way. So there was only 2 items that was different than what I budgeted. So how I calculate this, because I don't go through all of that, is I take what I originally set up, which or budgeted, which was $1,822.02. I minus the 2 transactions the transactions is different, which I have 2 this time, and then I add back the actual. So $1,820.45. Okay, and let's move on to the variable expenses. Now, as far as the variable expenses, there were several other variable expenses that was different as well. And so for credit card, it was actually the $432.65, so there was no difference there. Now, the water bill was actually $65.95. Okay, that's because it was a $2.95 fee for the water bill itself. For the cable, it was $25.18. The phone bill was actually the $143.05, and I think that's not right. And let me go check. I don't think that's right. Gotta look at my notes, because I think it was a little bit more than what I thought, or maybe it wasn't. But I'm gonna double check, because, okay, it wasn't. It's different for the upcoming month. Yes, okay, so that's right. The credit card was $30.71. Weight Watchers cancellation was $39.95. The medical bill was $266.61. Medical bill 2 or B was $54.40. And then the property tax was $565. Okay, I almost forgot that I did make an additional purchase that it wasn't budgeted, but it was $27.13, and it was for Papa. So I'm just going to say unbudgeted variable expense. Okay, because it needs to be accounted for here. Even though it was pulled from his fund, I need to count it into my budget itself, because I added it to my budget to pull it out. So let's add that $27.13, and so that gives us $1091.28. The next thing we're going to talk about is our envelope system. Now, with the envelope system, we're going to actually look at our income breakdowns to actually tell me exactly what was spent. So I'm going to try to put this in the best possible way so you can see. Maybe I can cover that side because you don't need to see that. And then we can just throw this here. So we have for fun money, the first check, it was $30, and then the second was $25. So that was actually $55 spent for that. Then we move over to gas. And gas was $30 the first check, $60 the second check. And so that's going to be $90. Then for groceries, we did $180 the first check, $180 the second check, and I did have $10 extra, so that was $370. For a household, it was $40 the first check and $100 the second check, so that was $140. For personal, the first check, it was $80. The second check, it was $100. No, $80, and the second check, it was $80. So that was $160. For restaurants, the first check, it was $57, and the second check, it was $20, so that's $77. All right, so let's slide this out the way. And we're just going to calculate this up. And I'm just going to do just a regular calculation of it because it's not that many categories, so I don't have to be caught up. So that's $892 for that. So I actually overspent in the envelope system. And I think it's because for the fun money, it wasn't overspending. It was simply, well, I just budgeted more this time around. I actually budgeted less for groceries, and then I was able to win the $10 from Tasha Loves Life with Mind Your Money early part of the month. So that kind of helped with that over budgeting. I was near, but I still overspent in groceries. For household, I decided the second check that I needed more because I needed more of my household needs. Personal stayed the same. Restaurants, I actually spent more the first paycheck because I had already spent for our New Year's Eve dinner. So I already knew that that amount needed to be allocated to that. So let's go ahead and let's talk about our savings and sinking funds, okay? So what I usually do in this section is I write down everything that I saved, and I put checks and minuses if I spent in that category to ensure that I am closing those out as well. Because what you don't see on camera is that I do reconcile all of these transactions in my Every Dollar app. And I want to always make sure that that coincides before I create a new budget for the following month. So for car maintenance, I budgeted $200, I saved $200, and I did not spend in that category. For gifts, I budgeted $50, but I actually spent $63.16, and I did spend in that category. In health, I didn't budget anything, but I did spend $95.51, and I did spend in that category. For miscellaneous, I budgeted $50, I sent $50, and I spent out of that category. For Papa, I budgeted $200, I saved $200, and I spent out of that category. For property, I saved $30, and I did spend out of that category. For taxes, I didn't budget anything, and I didn't save anything out of my budget itself, and I didn't spend out of it. So that's an X. For travel, I saved, budgeted $100, I saved $100, and I have not spent out of that category thus far. For the bill carrier, I budgeted $12, and I actually, let's see. I actually spent $25 in, no, excuse me, saved $25.78. And the reason why it's different is because those two additional, the money that came in after the roundups, was something that that actually came from not my budget. So that's why it's not listed here. But it's going to be listed. It's always listed here in here because I need to reconcile it. But this is actually what came out of my budget, $25.78. So I hope that makes sense. And I did not spend out of that category thus far. For the checking buffer, it was $715 from our unbudgeted. We know that $407.39 was actually saved for my checking buffer. I did spend out of that category, and in total that I actually spent was the $307.61. I always want that shown so I know exactly what I'm spending out of it when I'm reflecting on things. For savings, it was $117.56 that I wanted to send out of my budget. I was able to send $1,200 of the stimulus and $150 from my budget itself. So that's $1,350. So let's go ahead and we're going to calculate that as well. That's 200, 63.16, 95.51, 50, 200, 30, 100, 407.39. Now, even though I say 407.39, I do need to ensure that I'm accounting for this as well. So that's 307.61 and then 1350. So that's a total of $2,829.45 that was allocated from my budget to my savings and sinking funds. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to add up each of these quadrants to see if it equals that. First, let's do the total income is $6,633.18. $2,829.45 for savings and sinking funds. $892 for the envelope system. $1091.28 for variable expenses. And $1820.45 for fixed expenses. So every dollar in my budget is accounted for. Of course, you see my layout here, but I do weekly layouts as well. So this is my weekly layouts, and this is the stickers from Jennifer Bleacher's Life in Envelopes shop. And as you see, it's very active and busy. And I love this pattern. It was Beautiful Boy, and I can't remember the other names, but I'll list it. And so this is the last week here. It was straight busy. Additionally, I do keep account of when I grocery shop and the days I'm grocery shopping, how much I am. So I'm using this not for what it's intended for, I guess, like all monthly expenses. This is simply for my groceries. So I can kind of tell what days I am going out, how much I'm spending at each store, what I'm allocating to this budget, as well as if I receive any savings, like from Ibotta, $10 from the giveaway. I do, Fetch Rewards. I do Checkout 51. It's different like reward programs that I'm a part of. So if I receive anything, I allocate anything like from miscellaneous, I list it here. This is like where I've been writing things that I need for the house. And then when I make out my grocery list and my household list, I know exactly what I need to get, and I highlight them if I have covered them. And then if not, they just move on into February. So usually you don't get to see all of that goodness there. Before we reflect on our January budget, let's first reflect on our financial goals. It was to put $500 towards debt, put $500 towards emergency fund, and bring $1,000 plus in from side income. So let's first talk about the side income. I was able to bring in $1,000 plus from side income, though it was not my original goal of bringing $1,000 plus in after taxes. Nonetheless, I was still able to send money to savings, taxes, giving, and another goal, which was debt. So looking back at our January financial goals, was I able to put 500 towards debt? Yes, 630 to be exact. Was I able to put 500 plus towards emergency fund? Yes, 1350 to be exact. And was I able to bring in 1,000 plus in from side income? I'm going to say a half a check, because even though I was able to do that, I still feel like I didn't reach my goal, and I am so hard on myself that I just can't give myself that full check just yet. So last but not least, let's talk about the monthly budget master plan reflection. So this is for January, and this is 2021. And the first question, how did I do this month? And you can grade yourself A, B, C, D. For me, I am going to grade myself as a B. The reason why is because of, one, the overspending that I did with the groceries and the gas. I'm still on the fence of what I really need. And so I did a lot of spending, overspending in those categories when I shouldn't have. Additionally, another reason is that I did under budget my household, not taking into account that I would have to re-up on a lot of things in the house to cover that, cover the things that we need. I pulled from my miscellaneous, which I don't want to always do that every single month, every single pay period either. But I did do that. The reason why I didn't grade myself anything lower, because I was able to save a significant amount to my 0 hour challenge. So I did have some type of restraint, even with the issue with, not the issue, or having to travel. I still had some restraint and was blessed financially not to be able to pull from where, from my resources. I had other resources to pull from that didn't affect my budget. So that was a lot. I'm not going to write it here. I just spoke it. And so that's why I did give myself a grade of B. I guess I already talked about what could I have done better, and simply was just actually sitting down and doing a price plan, an inventory of the house, and determining what I needed. So going forward, I know that I can allocate, or what I should allocate to each category. So I knew I needed to get some air filters, water filters, shower filters. I know I need to do that. So I need to be very, very detailed in writing down how much these items cost. And then from there, devising a better plan when budgeting to ensure that I am budgeting the right amount to that category. So money affirmations is something that is new to me, but something I would like to incorporate. And for me, for money affirmations, is all the abundance. And I know that even though I don't see it, the Lord sees it. So it's times that I just need to take a step back and a breather in order to allow for Him to work. Okay. Everything. And it was something that I think it was like on one of these weeks here. Let me see. Yes, it was, God is not going to restore the old, and what God left out. Everything that is being removed is making room for you to receive. And so that's what I have to think about. Everything in my life, when I think like, oh no, not another thing, it's being removed for a reason. And I have to hold true to that and not become become worried, because that's not how He made us to be. So if you're new to my channel, I would love for you to be a part of my village. If you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. To all my returning subscribers, thank you. And everyone hit that like button. And please share this with your family, your friends, and your co-workers. Peace out.